Hello everyone, this is a very short video response to allegations made towards myself by an individual who goes by the name Cheshire Viq. Vic made these allegations during a stream on her YouTube channel by the same name, referring to me under my screen name, Science First, a name that is also my business name, which I trade under. Vic alleged that during a 2009 discussion with Rhetoric, who is one of her personal friends, I quote unquote used or utilised rape victims to prove a point. This is something we can listen to now. Here's a clip from that stream, which I've linked below in the comment and the description. Just to make sure that nobody accuses me of taking this clip out of context.
Like, there's a history between these two. Like, if any of you are unaware of who Science First is, he's the one who was debating that everybody is a rape apologist. That was that guy. The guy who was trying to utilize rape victims to push a narrative against Steve and debated Reds about it and showed up on Defango's channel and talked to us all about it. And
so there it is. That's what Cheshire Viq said in her own words. Now, before I respond to that, let me play the clip in question from Modern Day Debates, which is where that discussion with Rhetoric was held. Let me play that clip, and then I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to listen to this clip, and I want you to tell me in the comments section who was attempting to utilise rape victims to win this argument, win this discussion, win this debate, whatever you want to call it. Personally, I'm actually quite embarrassed I took part in it. The only good thing that came out of this discussion was that thanks to James, who's the moderator over at Modern Day Debates, and a great guy, we raised £200 for a rape charity, which is the only reason I'm not totally ashamed of this debate and engaging someone like Rhetoric. I want you to listen to what happened during this debate. Then you're going to tell me who used rape victims. I'm not going to tell you. You tell me.
I like how you're speaking for the victim. By the way, I have an actual victim on speed dial. Do you want me to give them a call so we can ask an actual victim of sexual assault?
So you'd use an actual victim of sexual assault. You bring them in to talk about this to win points on an online debate. This is the problem. This is the problem. You and Steve are living in a YouTube bubble, Reds. And you bring a victim in. Now, you said Fiona doesn't care about the victims. Do you care about victims?
Now it's getting out of control. So sorry. I muted both of you. Forgive me just for a second, just to make sure it doesn't go too extreme. So I promise we're going to come right back to you. I hate muting people, but we will, if we can kind of regroup at Was It Rape Apologetics. I'm going to unmute you guys. Forgive me for doing this. Just had to pause.
That's fine.
Thanks for your patience.
Do you want to flip a coin to see who goes first?
You go first, Reds.
We both have a lot to say.
No, it's fine by me. You go first.
Okay. You are speaking for the victim. I will let a victim speak for herself. That listen to everything that Steve McRae said. And guess what? They don't share your opinion. So I'm going to say this. How dare you speak for them as if they're not smart enough to make their own decisions, as if they're not smart enough to find the difference between having an opinion and going through the legal process. Because guess what? Guess what, dude? Warden is in deep shit right now.
So, there you have it. Reds had, quote-unquote, a victim on speed dial, willing to bring them in to tell me that they disagreed with me about my interpretation of Steve McRae's defence of a man called Earl David Warden, who was charged with a violent assault in the 1980s, I believe it was, without looking up the case again. Reds had taken umbrage because I had put forward a hypothetical case of how rape apologetics hurts victims who are afraid to come forward. This isn't just something that I raised from left field. It's well documented that one of the major problems in reporting rape is that associated fear and shame that a rape victim feels they won't be believed. This isn't just something from left field, and in the description I'll put my links in to the debate. I came into the debate with 20 references. I spoke to one of the leading rape charities in the UK that deal with how to address issues like rape to make it presentable to young men. I spoke to them about this debate, about rape apologetics in general, and that fear of coming forwards was one of the things that they raised. I didn't get a chance to put that forward as a source, mainly because Reds, I was so disgusted at the time with what Reds had said that I wasn't really thinking about presenting sources, which will, that's my fault, and but that source is there, you can check it. Now, what I'd say further to that is my position was then and still is that I wouldn't let any rape survivor, because I don't like using the term victim, I wouldn't let any rape survivor have their experience used to win something as petty as an online debate. No matter how important the subject of that debate is, this is an online debate. I'm not going to have someone come on and lay out their life so that Reds can win an argument. And what you get into was a situation, okay, you bring on a rape survivor who doesn't agree with me. Well then, how do I up the ante? Should I bring on 2 rape survivors who do believe me? And then you bring 3 who don't believe me, or don't agree with me rather? And you get into this ludicrous and disgusting top trump situation where you're bringing rape survivors on to agree and back you up. I was never going to allow that to happen, and if James had allowed that caller to come on, I would have left the call before they relayed their story. Not because I'm not interested in what they have to say, because I actually communicated with them after the debate, so I could make sure that they know I wanted to hear what they had to say. But because I was not prepared to allow a rape survivor's experience to be used in such an underhand way. Now, given all that, and that was my position then, it's still my position now, I want you to tell me who was willing to use rape victims, quote unquote rape victims, rape survivors as far as I'm concerned, because it certainly wasn't me. If I'd have allowed that to happen, what do? Come back with 2 more. Reds comes back with 3. I'd come back with 4. That's what using a rape... If I'd have been prepared to use rape victims, that's what would have happened, and that is expressly what didn't happen. It was shut down there and then. And one thing that Cheshire and Reds won't tell you about that situation is, I don't think James, the moderator, was particularly happy with that idea either. That's somebody whose feelings they don't consider, because essentially it's James's channel and what he says goes. I don't think he was particularly happy with the idea either. This wasn't a case of me trying to silence rape survivors. This was a case of me not wanting somebody's experience to be exploited by a petty little narcissist like Red's Rhetoric. And that's my position. Now, as for what Cheshire said with regards to myself using rape victims, I'm taking this really seriously. You can consider this to be my official statement on the matter. I'm a journalist. To me, my reputation's everything. I speak about social affairs, I speak about science, my reputation, my believability. They are all very important things to me. Someone like Cheshire Viq, who's built a reputation of being a dishonest, disingenuous, reckless individual on the internet, would not understand the nature of reputations. And I'm going to tell you now why that's the case, how I can further evidence this. This isn't the first time that Cheshire Viq's done something like this. Last year, she accused a man called Dragnaut, who is, in his private life, a quite successful scientist, of being a sex offender. When the DM that she said that in was leaked, she said it was a case of a missing question mark. Well, she never apologised, and as far as I'm concerned, whether it was an error in grammar or not, that accusation was out there, it was made by her, and she never made any measure to correct the record and say, actually, no, I don't think this person is a sex offender. Secondly, and by far the worst thing she's done, during 2019, several streams were taken down because Cheshire repeatedly made an allegation about someone I'm just going to call Person A, who is a very successful academic. Success and academia being two things that Cheshire Viq knows nothing about. A very successful academic. She circulated the suggestion that this person had sexually assaulted someone I'm going to call Person B. Despite the fact Person B was silent about it for a long time and then categorically denied it ever happened, Cheshire has never apologised, never given a damn about the damage it could have done to that person's life and that person's reputation, because Cheshire Viq, to her, there are no consequences. Well, I'm saying to the wider community now, there needs to be consequences to this. And I'm going to let Cheshire Viq, in her own words, explain what those consequences should be.
And to be signal boosting that particular group of people, not a good look. Maybe don't support liars. Maybe don't allow liars in your community to just say whatever they want. Maybe don't.
Thanks for listening. As I say, a huge departure for this channel. People are used to seeing simulations from NASA and ESA. I'm going to get back to that. What I might do is produce a long video that tackles some of the other claims that Cheshire made in that video that don't specifically revolve around me, but revolve around Matt Dillahunty and the nature of SkEpTiCiSm. Because, as far as I'm concerned, what Cheshire Viq is cultivating in her collaboration with Steve McRae and Rhetoric is a culture of where people aren't allowed to ask questions. They aren't allowed to approach Cheshire Viq and Steve McRae on Steve's channel under the umbrella Caffeine Corner, which is a show they do every Monday. I call it caffeine cultivation because essentially it's 2 hours of indoctrination every week of Steve and Cheshire justifying why they were right in removing people from their community, removing people from their chat, telling people to get out. When people approach with reasonable questions, they're essentially dealt with by Cheshire, who's a petty and temperamental child. She essentially responds to any questions or any inquiries for information with shouting, screaming, clicking her fingers at the screen, insults, and eventually that person's removed and blocked. You only have to look recently. It happened to a guy who's been around YouTube for a good decade. I first encountered him on a show called Fundamentally Flawed about a decade ago. Excellent atheist show that I really miss. I first encountered him then, a guy called Hogtie Champ. Recently, he offered Cheshire a mild bit of pushback about the honesty of another person, because in his experience, and this person had always been really honest, Cheshire had a massive tantrum, threw her headphones down, stormed out of the room, waved her hands at the screen, clicked, because she's a petulant child. This person is not someone who is has been equipped by her upbringing or the life that she's led that's brought her up to 30, has not been equipped to deal with challenges, to deal with intelligent discussion, to deal with debate. She can't handle it, so she has to trim her community down. She has to weed people out. I think one of the reasons Steve and Cheshire will be quite open about, oh, it's okay, come and ask us questions. You can come and ask us questions. I think one of the reasons they do that is so they can trim out the people who will ask challenging questions. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but a few years ago, a software studio called Digital Homicide was suing a computer games commentator called Jim Sterling. Now, one of the things Digital Homicide did was they were trying to weed out negative reviews of their product on Steam, because essentially, the games they were selling were asset flips, not well prepared. So what Digital Homicide did was they ran a competition saying, give us a bad review and we'll give you X amount of Steam credits or tokens. I'm a boomer. I don't know what Steam uses. Now, when the negative reviews were coming in, what Digital Homicide, the studio, were doing was blocking and removing those people. So essentially, anyone who gave a negative review, which was the aim of the competition, it was identified by Digital Homicide as somebody who was willing to offer a negative opinion. That's exactly what Steve and Cheshire do. Come and ask us questions. Oh, this guy's identified himself as someone, or this guy or girl, sorry, has identified themselves as someone who will put challenging questions to us. Let's get rid of them. Let's trim them from the community. Then they'll produce these long discussions where they tell people, oh, well, they approached us sideways, whatever the hell that means. They came at us sideways, and that's not the proper etiquette of how you ask us a question. That's not the proper etiquette of how you ask for evidence. And they call themselves skeptics. I've been around the skeptic community for almost 20 years. I've never heard the etiquette of evidence requesting before I came across Cheshire Viq and Steve McRae. They're creating essentially a cult. They're filtering their community for people who are prepared to challenge them. Ultimately, that's going to be disastrous for them. But in the meantime, it presents us with a real problem, because what they've got at the moment is a community that people are listening to where there are no consequences for telling lies. Nobody's going to call you out, and if someone does call you out, you're going to be removed and kicked. Every time they've done this, when they did it to Drag, when they did it to Person A, who I'm not going to name, people challenged them, people were kicked. It's a filtration process. They're weeding out the people who are prepared to challenge them. It's leaving them with an echo chamber. But the problem is that echo chamber is still large enough that telling lies about people, like the lies they told about me, like the lies they told about Drag, like the lies they tell about Nate Brody, like the lies they've told about Person A, is damaging to that person's reputation. And as a community, we need to stand up and say, actually, you need to stop lying. And I personally don't know how we're going to do it until collectively the people in their community get their heads together and say, actually, look, is this true? But as long as they're making the request for evidence something that's shameful, something that shouldn't be encouraged, something that needs to be done with the proper etiquette, like spoons at a fancy dinner, oh, you've got to use the correct spoon when you're sticking it into the blancmange of Steve's evidence. You can't use your soup spoon, you've got to approach with a small tablespoon. No, it's a load of bullshit. It's a load of bullshit cultivated to allow those individuals at the top of that pyramid to continue to roll shit down the sides. So, without further ado, I've ranted on. That was a lovely rant. I feel much better for that. Let me play you what Cheshire Viq thinks that should happen to liars in the community. Thanks for listening, and back to science hopefully next time. But with the promise of maybe I'll do a longer video assessing their claims. Okay, thank you.
And to be signal boosting that particular group of people, not a good look. Maybe don't support liars. Maybe don't allow liars in your community to just say whatever they want. Maybe don't do that thing. Maybe don't hang out with rape apologists. I don't know. I'll catch you guys next time. Get me the hell out of here. Bye.